Salutations all, and welcome to Basic Public Speaking. I am your instructor, Christy Thomas, and this is the video discussing, it's just a quick snippet video. I'm going to say quick. We'll see how well I can do quick. For description and requirements of the main speeches. Again, each of these will have their own individual module as well, where I will upload videos and Word documents going into more detail. This is just a quick overview. And this is in the welcome module. So there are 4 main speeches. Don't let that number scare you. They are separated throughout the entire semester, and we're just kind of building up. So main speech 1 is an introduction speech. This is a speech where you basically just introduce yourself to me via video. With that, I want you to cover, there are 5 points you need to cover in this speech. So there's 1, just introduce yourself. That's your name. I need the name that is on the roster so I can make connections, start making connections in my mind of face, voice to names. But if there's a preferred name that you want to go by, you can tell that to me as well. And if you're sending me emails and stuff, the first few, at least put, if you have a different name you go by than what's on the roster, like if the roster, your name is Sir Diddums, Labyrinth Reference, sorry, and you want to go by Jewel, just be like Jewel and then the roster name. Again, it's just so that I can match names when I go to do grades. So introduce yourself. Number 2, let's talk about future. Now, you can have fun with this. It can be a future institution or a degree that you are seeking or a future degree that you would like, or if a dream job, you know, think about when you were 5 or 6 and somebody asked you what you want to be when you get older and you were like, I want to be a mermaid. Hey, there's people that travel the world that are professional mermaids, so perhaps it's your dream job. I had 2 career paths when I was 6 years old. I was either going to be an archaeologist or I was going to be an actress. There was no middle ground. Or if money was no object and there was nothing to, I don't want to say keep, but if there was like, money wasn't an object and you could travel anywhere in the world and you could take anyone with you, you know, what would you do? Would you, you know, a dream job, a dream career path. Perhaps you want to just travel the world. You know, that would have been a dream job. It also could be, if money was no object, you had a school that you wanted to go to, but you know, oh, that's a really like expensive school, or it's in a different country. If you can discuss all this. So far, our first 2 points is introduce yourself. That's pretty straightforward. Let's talk about future plans. Dream job, dream career, dream hobby, or maybe it's an institution you want, or maybe it's the degree you're trying, the degree path you're on, or maybe it's like a dream, like, you know, perhaps you're in this field, but wouldn't it be exciting to be this field over here? You know, whatever the case may be, you can hit multiple points. So yourself and future. The third thing I want you to talk about, this is discuss something known. Like when I say known, the majority of people who know you know this about you. So your friends, your families, your significant other, your group you're with. So this could be something you're known for. Perhaps it's a hobby. Perhaps it's extracurricular. You know, maybe you've been a cheerleader since you were 3. Or perhaps you've played basketball or baseball. Or perhaps you're known because you know, maybe you doodle. Maybe you're an artist. Or maybe it's a job where you work. Oh yeah, well they work at McDonald's, or they work here, or they work there. Or it could be, you know, something that everyone knows about you. The 4th one is something not as well known. Like a few people know, but not everybody. I don't want to say it would be a surprise. And I don't need deep dark secrets, folks. Nay, we don't need that here. This is just, you know, maybe a few people know that you're a big book nerd, but not everybody. Or maybe it's like you're really into a particular series and nobody would guess that looking at you. Or maybe you're really into rom-coms and not everyone knows that. Or perhaps you like to go to Comic-Cons and not everyone knows that. That's what I'm talking about here. So, introduce yourself, future world, something widely, I almost said wildly known about you that everybody, oh yeah, da-da-da. Something not so known about you that people would be a little bit shocked about. And then last, what brings you joy? What brings you happiness? What brings a smile to your face? Perhaps it's something you do to unwind. Perhaps it's hanging out with certain people. You know, whatever the case may be here. What makes you smile? I want to know. So that first speech is an introduction speech. And this is the first one due. There's no outline due. There's no time limit. I do ask that you try to hit at least 2 minutes in talking. And that's in any of the speeches we do. So I can kind of get to know you. But there's 5 points to hit. So you're going to introduce yourself. You're going to talk about future endeavors or dream or, whatever the case may be here, or all of it above. Something widely known about you. Something not so commonly known. Maybe a few people do, but not everybody. And then what makes you smile? That's main speech 1. That's an introduction speech. Main speech 2 is also an informative speech, which was what speech 1 was as well. But this is an informative how-to. A how-to speech basically is just you're telling us how to do something, how something works, how a process is done, how to create, whatever may be here. It's a how-to. You can also think of it as advanced show and tell. We're going to add a little bit more technicality here. So there will be an outline due with this, and don't worry, we will cover outlines and there's also simple outlines. So never fret, I'm not going to leave you hanging. And then we're also going to add a visual presentational aid in this as well. And don't worry, we're going to cover that too with examples, and we're going to chat about it. But again, this is just a quick link to talk about it. So with the how-to, again, you're telling us how something works, how to make something, explain a theory, an idea. You're just telling us how it works, but we're adding the component of a visual aid. You can get really creative with visual aids when it comes to recording yourself. I feel like you actually have more opportunity for visual aids than what you do in an in-person class, because like I say, you can get really creative. And what's great is that there's a lot of social media platforms that you can record videos and have the visual aid at the same time. So it kind of coincides. So it really, really works. But like I said, this one, you do have a time limit. I'd love for you to hit at least 3 minutes would be fabulous. My only stipulation with this one, if you're choosing the route of cooking, which is a great route to go, cooking or baking, do not read me. So say you're making brownies, don't read me the directions off the box of brownies verbatim. If you're gonna, I'm not saying you can't use box stuff, not at all, but give it some flair, make it your own. There's all these different tips and tricks out there that turn boxed ingredients into like tasting homemade. So give it some flair. There's a great way to use box cake mix and make banana bread. There's little tips and tricks when you're making box brownies that just give it a little bit more depth of flavor. You make it your own. Don't just read me. I'm not saying you can't use the ingredients of box, but don't sit here and go, get 2 eggs. Crack 2 eggs mixed with, give it some flair in it could be your add-ons, or you could replace butter with oil, or, flavored with the water, whatever the case may be here. Make it your own. Like I said, food and stuff's great to go. But there'll be more in the details of that description when we get it. I'm also going to say this for any speech. This doesn't really become a problem in the first speech, but when we start hitting the second speech, or even the storytelling speeches and the third and fourth main speeches, if you quote anyone, or you get a statistic or a blurb or whatever from somewhere else, always, always, always give credit where credit is due. It's just cool. And I talk more in depth about citing sources and stuff later on, but always remember to give credit where credit is due. Okay, so that's our first 2 main speeches. Main speech 3, I have dubbed Tell Me a Story. This falls under celebratory, but also informative speech world, which we'll discuss later on when we break down the different speech genres in their own world. This speech is I created to help you explore the storytelling aspect of public speaking, because when people think public speaking, they just think formal, stand in front of it. But there's so much more to it to encapsulate. So this explores that avenue. So this is kind of a choose your own adventure too, because there's options. Now, option one, world, is that you can choose to retell a story. Now, when I say tell a story, you can read a book, but I want it to be like a children's book. Think preschool up to like 3rd or 4th grade. You know, small books. I don't need you out here reading me The Hobbit to me in a video. But you can tell. Now, if you choose a book, so think of like Dr. Seuss, One Fish, Two Fish, or the Lorax or something like that, or retelling a fairy tale story. I want you to initiate the nonverbal, and we're going to discuss that more too throughout this course, but the nonverbal is your tone, facial expressions, body movements. When I say body movements, you don't have to get up and reenact it. You don't have to do that, but think of how you would tell a story to a kindergarten age child. You're going to maybe change up your voices for the different characters, or have reflection on emotions. Ooh, sad. You know, oh my gosh, they're so happy. Yay! That's what I'm talking about here. So, and then you use your facial expressions as well. All that falls under. So if you choose to tell a story, I want you to sell it. That's option one. Or you can go the option, if you think of it like a podcast where they tell stories and stuff, or talk about recreations, you can go that as well. So you can tell a ghost story, or retell a ghost story, or you can discuss, sorry, my computer is off to the side and it has all my notes that's on the Word document. So I'm just kind of making sure I'm falling in sync. So you can retell a fairy tale, a fable, an urban legend, a ghost story. You can discuss a murder mystery or true crime. You can discuss a historical event, break down a movie, give a synopsis of literature, so you can choose a book or a series. Chat about conspiracy theories. This is really exploring the aspects of storytelling by building suspense, creating characters, delivery of timelines, facial expressions, intonation, and your perspective. So maybe if you're talking about a conspiracy theory, you can interject you can interject your thoughts on it as well. I want to hear it. Or a movie review, like, oh, well, I would give it 2.5 stars out of 4, or I give it 3 out of 5 stars, and here's why, and go forth with it. I say think of it like a podcast, because if you listen to podcasts, you don't generally see the person. It's all through their vocal storytelling, and this is what I'm really wanting you to explore in this speech. So there's 2 options. You can read a story, you can retell, discuss, whatnot, or you can choose to do a celebratory tribute or a memory speech. That has options as well, so let's get into that. You can choose to do, if you go with a tribute or memorial speech or memory speech, you can pick any person living or deceased to give a speech in their honor. Just remember the tone of which you are doing the speech, tribute or memorial, You may also pick a character from literature, a television series, film, or comic graphic novel to cover in your speech. So if maybe you want to do a tribute to Harry Potter, maybe you want to do a tribute to Batman, maybe you want to do a memorial speech to this. You can also, like living or deceased, this also covers historical figures, personalities, sports figures, athletes, authors, musicians, directors. I could keep going and going. So the sky's the limit on who you pick for this if you go this route. You can also choose to do a commencement speech. So if you already know you're on deck to do the commencement speech for your graduating class, maybe this is a good warm-up. You may also choose to do a roast. This is a roast. I ask that you do a famous person, a famous persona to roast, and not someone down the street. And a great example of roast is Comedy Central used to do a ton of roast all the time. I don't know if they still do them, but it was. You may choose to do a toast. So think like a wedding toast, or after dinner toast, or a celebratory toast. With this speech, I just want you to acknowledge the reason why you're speaking. Remember the tone, that it relates to the occasion and highlights whom or what you're speaking about. So if you choose a memory speech, make it a memorial speech. If you commencement speech, the tone is of that of graduation, of a milestone, all that. So for speech 3 on Tell Me a Story, you have options. Your options are as follows. You can actually tell a story, but I ask that you choose to do ones that are more directed toward P through 3rd grade. No later than that, you're starting to get into really long books, and like I said, I don't need The Hobbit being read to me. So you can read a book, and again, we're exploring our storytelling aspects in this speech. Or you can retell a fairy tale, a fable, or you can talk about a ghost story, or you can discuss a murder, mystery, true crime, conspiracy theory, a historical event, a moment in time, a historical figure. You can also discuss, I said moments in history, and that covers like people or events. You can also discuss conspiracy theories. I'm trying to think what all that falls under. Or you can choose to do a tribute or memory speech, and this is of any person living or deceased, and it's anybody. And you can also not only pick from reality, but you can pick from historical figures or reality. You can pick from literature, television series, film series, or films, comic or graphic novel to choose for your tribute or memorial speech. Or you can choose to do a commencement speech. You can choose to do a roast. I'll ask that roast be of a famous person. Or you can do a toast. Toast usually falls in the realm of like a wedding toast and after dinner toast. You can also, in this realm, choose to do like a pep speech. And what I mean, if you're trying to get like your team or your workers or your buddies like a hype, you can do a hype up speech. Okay, that's the description of the speech. Like I said, there's like a lot to choose from, and it'll have its own world too. Here are the technical requirements for this speech. Speech limit, about 2.5, 3 minutes. Outline, you did an outline with the second speech, you're going to do one for this speech as well. But I asked this time we do one in-speech citation or quote. Don't worry, we're going to talk about it later on, but this is just letting you know. So because I asked for one in-speech text, there will be a works cited due with the outline, and that's MLA format. Don't worry, we'll talk about that too. Nothing will be undiscussed here. Your quote or citation. Now, if you choose to read a book, so if you read, say to me, I don't know, a condensed version of Cinderella, your work cited will be just the information about the book. So the author, the publisher, the title, of course. Your quote is the book. But anyway, after that, a quote can be a statistic, a blurb, a saying, a direct quote, a citation. Anyway, again, and we discuss this more later on, but I digress. So that's 3 main speeches. So far, you're going to tell me about yourself, you're going to do a how-to informative, and then you're going to do a tell me a story, which is celebratory / informative. You got a route here. You got options. Your final main speech, and this is your final speech for the course, which is due during finals week, is a persuasive speech. A persuasive speech, in a nutshell, is there to motivate your audience to start or stop an action, to I don't want to say change, but you want to realign beliefs or values that coincide with what you are wanting in this speech or to create in this speech. So you have that going on. Anyway, so it's a persuasive speech, but I don't want you to think, because a lot of people think persuasive speeches and they automatically think they have to be politically fueled, and that's not true. Now, you are more than welcome to go that route. I'm just saying that it's not a requirement for this speech. Let's see if I can get that paper to stay down. Which, again, I'll go into detail later on. This is just a quick snippet. You just did 1 citation in the last speech. Well, this one will require 2 citations or quotes or whatnot. I also want to say that I don't care if both of your quotes or your citations in speech citations come from the same source, but I want them to be a different thought. It can't be just like you break one thought down and place it in 2 different areas. So it can come from the same source, but it has to be 2 separate thoughts or statistics or blurbs or quotes or whatever the case may be here. Okay. So because of all that, a outline is due and a works cited bibliography as well, and we'll get into all that detail later. But each speech has its own module with detailed information. This is just a quick snippet in case, you know, I like to put information out there. So these are the 4 main speech requirements. We're building up on technical requirements for each speech, and you know, we put some here and some there, and we're building up our time that we are speaking as well, you know, building on our foundations. Outlines are due for speeches 2, 3, and 4. So the how-to, the celebratory, and the persuasive speech all will have an outline due. Don't worry, we discuss outlines, and there will be a sample on Blackboard as well. Give credit where credit is due. So anytime you're giving credit to someone, I expect to see a works cited. With that being said, each module will have a link that you can upload speeches and outlines to as well if an outline is due. If for some reason technology does not like you, email me. But I ask that you don't wait till the last very minute to upload your speech. That's why I try to give adequate time for speeches so that you know in advance and not a day before. As always, if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to me via email and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I hope you have an amazing day. Thanks so much. Bye.